to our chief town of the East region of Cameroon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. Representation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. Striking teachers in Cameroon say they are yet to come to an agreement with the government. According to them, the outcome of the press conference held yesterday in Yaoundé is not satisfactory as government officials are unable to tackle the core problems which sparked the nationwide teacher strike action that started last year. And 17 militants and sympathizers of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party who were arrested in 2020 during a pacific march after the presidential elections in Cameroon have been released today from the New Bell Central Prison in Douala. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us on today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast. We are broadcasting live from our economic capital headquarters here in the economic capital city of Douala. We begin with education. Some striking teachers have praised government's decision to dialogue with them. Their reaction comes after a conference held in Yaoundé between teachers and some ministers. According to the teachers, government's decision to dialogue with them is a clear proof that they are concerned about their challenges. However, they say the conference did not touch the core problems which led to the teachers' strike action and hope that the authorities will call them for more talks. We have details with Innocent Aze.
Came out of the interministerial conference in Yaoundé that tens of thousands of files of teachers have already been treated in 2022 and 2023. And the government taking initiatives and actions to, by January next year, better the working conditions of teachers who had promised a blank academic year 2023-2024 if their salary arrears and other bonuses owed them are not completely paid.
We were listening to this government communication with some specific expectations, especially concerning the signing and application of the teacher special status.
Even as teachers and trade unionists hail the come together and what government has already done, they believe the government in the meeting targeted symptoms instead of the disease.
The issue at stake right now is the signing and the application of teacher special status. This was, however, not mentioned in the order of the day.
The second issue we talked about is the payment of all the money that is owed teachers by the state of Cameroon, and that one has not been touched. You remember we talked about the high instructions that were given by the President of the Republic to the government to start paying arrears of reclassification and advancement decisions, though the payment was supposed to commence in June 2022, and today it is September 2023. And just some few people have been paid, and that payment commenced in August 2023. That is 15 months after the initial date when the payments were supposed to start.
Questioned what next before October 5, day of another strike, these teachers expressed hope to hear authorities initiate a talk with them on the untouched issues deemed major grievances for normalcy to return.
And now to one of our major lead stories. 17 members of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement political party have been released this afternoon from the New Bell Central Prison in Douala. Among them is Salomon Bia, a die-hard militant of the party who has been in prison for over 3 years. They were arrested and incarcerated during a pacific march organized by Professor Maurice Kamto's party in 2020 after the much disputed presidential elections. Immediately after his release, Salomon Bia called a press briefing at his Peka-Ong's residence. There he reiterated that he cannot bow to intimidation and must continue the fight for Cameroonians, for liberation of Cameroonians from the hands of their oppressors. And now we talk health. A cardiologist reveals that at least 30% of the Cameroonian population is suffering from cardiovascular diseases. That is 1 out of 3. In commemoration of the World Heart Day, which is today, our reporter Asia Lucy Liengo spoke to a cardiologist and she explained some risk factors favoring the prevalence of the disease. Her report. We're coming to this report done by A.C. Lucy, where, speaking to a cardiologist, he reveals that at least 30% of the Cameroonian population is suffering from cardiovascular diseases, that is, 1 out of 3. In commemoration of World Heart Day, which is today, a reporter, A.C. Lucy, spoke to a cardiologist and she explained some risk factors favoring the prevalence of the disease. Her report. We'll be coming to that report in a subsequent edition of the news on World Heart Day, where she says 30% of the population are suffering with the disease. And now, still in health, patients suffering from kidney disease in Cameroon continue to decry the limited number of dialysis machines and also the fact that the few available are outdated. They are urging the government to update the existing equipment they use for dialysis. The call was made during the inauguration of the hemodialysis center at the Douala Lakentini Hospital by the Minister of Public Health, Manauda Malachi. Smaji Kangibil has the details.
Scores of Cameroonians are suffering with kidney failure, and most of the time they are forced to go down to the streets because of the lack of equipment for them to dialyze. Many have died too as a result of the distance they had to cover to get themselves dialyzed. In a bid to curb the rate of death amongst the kidney failure patients, another hemodialysis center has been inaugurated by the Minister of Public Health at the Lakentini Hospital in Douala. 2 individual rooms and 2 rooms having 5 machines each. The center is expected to have 20 machines. In case we have problems with one machine, another could be used as backup. We also have water reservoirs. One will serve as a backup to the other in case of any fault. The new hemodialysis center has come to reduce the pressure that is usually observed at the General Hospital in Douala.
So in our political and practical actions, it's a great moment here for the population of Douala. You know, we have this center in General Hospital of Douala. We have it also in a private way, strengthen the healthcare.
Before now, Yaoundé was the only town having a hemodialysis center that could take in as much as 20 patients. But the center recently opened at Lakentini Hospital is having the same capacity. The patients are now hoping that the equipment will be well managed to give them the necessary satisfaction they need.
Out of our borders, precisely in Gabon, the new Prime Minister Raymond Dansima revealed to the press that the seizure of power by the army is of major importance to the population. He equally outlined plans for national dialogue to be organized next year. According to him, this will pave a way for the drawing up of a new constitution. Our reporter, Cedric Chakotio, tells us more. We'll be coming back to this report done by Cedric Chakotio out of our borders, precisely in Gabon, where the new Prime Minister Raymond Dansima revealed to the press that the seizure of power by the army is of major importance to the population. He equally outlined plans for national dialogue to be organized next year. According to him, this will pave a way for the drawing up of a new constitution. Our reporter, Cedric Chakotio, has the details.
In Burkina Faso security and intelligence services foiled a coup attempt on Tuesday according to the country's military government. It alleged that officers of others had planned to destabilize the country and throw it into chaos. It has been almost a year since the interim president, Captain Ibrahim Touré, seized power, which was the country's second coup of 2022. The authorities said some arrests had been made and they were actively pursuing other suspects. Note should be made that earlier this month, Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali, all threatened by jihadist forces and where the army has seized power in the past years, established a defense pact against any armed rebellion or external aggressions. And over to Gabon, the Prime Minister was extremely cautious about the precise timetable for the transition. According to Raymond Dansima, the national dialogue which will lead to the establishment of a constituent assembly responsible for drafting the future constitution could take place between April and June next year. However, from next week, he will launch a call for contributions to the Gabonese, who will have up to 2 months to submit their proposals.
And over to sports. Cotton Sport of Garwa and Fovo Club of Baham will battle for the Super Cup trophy in Douala this weekend. Meantime, the Deaf football team of Cameroon has been eliminated from the Deaf World Cup ongoing in Malaysia. Smart Jikangable with our sports page.
Unification Stadium of Douala will this weekend host the Super Cup match for the 2022-2023 football season. Cotton Sport of Garwa, that won the league, will battle against current Cameroon Cup holders Fovu of Baham. The boys of Baham defeated PWD Bamenda last Sunday 2-0. It will be Coach Bert's first major outing at the local scene, with Cotton Sport of Garwa since Cotton Sport had an early exit from the CAF Champions League. 16 goals conceded against 2 goals scored. That was the record of the Deaf football team of Cameroon at the Deaf World Cup taking place in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Cameroon's Deaf football team was hammered by Japan, no goal to 8, before losing to France, no goal to 3, and to Iran, 2 goals to 5. The Deaf football team finished last in Group E of the tournament without a win. Reigning African champions Senegal, Nigeria, Egypt, and Gabon are the African flag bearers left in the tournament. Finally, Cameroonian referee Karine Fomo Atezambong has been picked by FIFA to officiate at the Under-17 World Cup in Indonesia. The 39-year-old is the lone Cameroonian referee selected for the Under-17 World Cup. 54 referees and assistant referees as well as 18 VAR officials have been chosen for the tournament. Atezambong Fomo Karine is one of the 31 assistant referees who participated at the 2021 AFCON.
Smart Jikangable ending this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Smart Jikangable ending this part of the news. Talking Point is up next. Okay, today on Talking Point, I'll be receiving Reverend Dr. Bay Christian, a civil society actor based in Limbe, and we'll be discussing on the recent declaration made by the governor of the Southwest region, Benal Kalabilai, where he called on the population to terrorize terrorists in that part of the country. This comes after the separatist imposed lockdown, which is expected to begin today in prelude of the 1st of October Independence Day celebration. Good evening to you, Reverend Dr. Bay Christian. You are currently in Limbe in the Southwest region. Are you aware of the ghost town imposed by separatist fighters, and is it being respected by the population?
Yes, the separatists, they have imposed ghost towns, and all this while since 2016 when this crisis started, we have seen a lot of ghost towns, lockdowns from, given by the separatist fighters and the poor, independent fighters, and it's being respected by the population because, as they said in English is the basic in the language, that when 2 elephants are fighting, the grass suffer. The population are suffering because of what is happening. The armed conflict that is going on between the state, the government forces, and the ambas or the non-state government of forces are on conflicts, and this conflict has been going on since 2016. And people have been suffering, because of this for several decades. We are expecting that the government should come in and do something. And the government is also playing for time. So most often than not, the separatists will impose ghost towns on the people of the southern Cameroon, north and southwest, and people have to accept or align with it because of the devastating effects that some of them even have or they go through this issue of ghost towns. You have seen towns that people have been beaten, people have been put several kind of challenges that they go through because sometimes they want to respect ghost towns, they don't want to respect ghost towns, and the separatist party want to reinforce their authority and the ghost towns that they have implemented. And that's so far you see that people are forced, to align with this ghost town. If you look at the northwest and southwest, especially on the day of Mondays, you can tell the story to yourself. Most basic shops are closed, people are stay at home, everybody wants to have security of itself because we look at it at the situation we find on the ground, government forces cannot give security. They themselves sometimes they are afraid of what is even going on. And how can we it depends on the government forces when they themselves cannot give security for the populations.
But then, is it possible for the population of the Southwest region to terrorize the terrorists as demanded by Governor Benal Kalabila of the Southwest region?
Very, very impossible for Mr. Journalist, for the population to defy, to accept and to align with the word of the governor, to terrorize. How can the population terrorize a terrorist with a gun on their hand? These guys have weapons, they have, weapons, they have all means. They are ghost guys. They come to town without even knowing. They do the things they want to do. They have the seat in the strongholds. They have plans on what to do and what not to do. And the population are there going about doing their businesses, and you are telling the population to terrorize. We have people who have been trained. The military personnel have been trained. They have the weapons. They have the money. They have the resources. They have the intelligence, to fresh out these guys wherever they are and to make sure that these guys are being held to the book. So there's no need to tell the population. The population are people, just barely people with the very evil hands. They don't know. That's why they don't have guns. They don't know how to use guns. These guys, they use weapons, different weapons, knives, guns, other means, to make sure that they execute what they want to execute. So to tell you that the population will go out there to fight or to terrorize the terrorists, I think that it is not. The armed forces are supposed to. The governor is even ashamed to see such a situation. What kind of a statement like that? Instead, they should retain the military, the gendarme, the police, the army, to make sure that they face this guy from the population and deal with them. Not going to tell the population to go and terrorize, the amber. Do they know them? And that is the one of the irony. There's a double standard with the government, some government officials. They will tell you that the ambulance are there. We don't know them. People don't know them. So the government have the intelligence, the military have the intelligence to seek those guys, to know how can face those guys and deal with them. Not telling the population to go out there to terrorize these guys. The population don't have the intelligence it have. They don't have the training that it has, that the military have to go about to terrorize the population. It's not good for such a man, a statesman, number one statesman in the region, to be saying such a thing. It is not good. It's showing that, it's just an indication to show that they are, unquote, they are failing in being a lasting solution to this problem.
We clearly saw what happened recently in Muya and Mile 16, all in Boya, chieftain of the Southwest region. People got killed for violating the ghost town. Now, the same governor of the same region is calling on the population to brave the odds. Shouldn't that decision be considered as inhumane?
It takes to go and fight, a separatist, someone who have guns, someone who have his own intelligence, someone who have his own control, of what of his activity that is carrying. It is very inhuman. Because, for example, look what happened in Munya. The separatists, they wanted to impose and to enforce their ghost town. They came, they brought daylight, not in the night, and they terrorized the people for hours. The people ran into the stronghold, hide themselves, and the government forces also themselves in Munya. We saw videos how the government forces, the station in Munya, they locked themselves inside, and then even the army that were around, they went and hid themselves. It's a shameful situation, a scenario to see for our own forces. They went and hid themselves, and then after 1 hour, 2 hours after the guys have displayed themselves, and then they left bunkers, cars, people were born in the car, and then they left and they started going people on ground that they are doing a Kale. They have been used to the issue of Kale, and it's not working. Because instead to search, to use their intelligence to seek and find the struggle of those of separatist fighters, they are then busily, inhumaning the population. It's a bit terrorizing the population. That's inhuman. That's very inhuman. That action is not good. I'm not seeing a world where war is going on, conflict is going on, and then the government is telling the population to go with their bare hand to go and fight the terrorists. I'm not seeing it. It's a inhuman act, and the authority being should know that that is not something that the international community will take it lightly. To see that a governor of a region is encouraging the population with bare hands to go and fight it. Look at it very well. It's even in war international stage. It's a war crime for you to shoot somebody with an armless person, and it's uncalled for to see someone without an arm to go and fight someone with an arm. So if it's international law, if you shoot somebody without carrying arms, it's an international crime. Why can you, a governor, be telling people that don't carry arms to go and fight someone who carry arms? It means already you are telling them that Anglophones go and die. That's what you are telling them, in other words, that Anglophones go and die. That's what I'm telling them. Because if you look at it gradually, I don't believe that if this one will happen in his own village, that's what he will be telling his own country people to go and do. I don't think so. So it's a hypocrisy around the line that we have to look at it. And we have to tell you that it's an human action for a governor to tell people to with bare hands to go and terrorize terrorists. It means that he is telling them to go and die.
Dr. Bear Christian, repressive measures such as sealing the stores of those who go about respecting separatist lockdown have become very common in the northwest and southwest region. Should we say the government is more concerned about the cover rather than the content?
Say about the cover up rather than the content, because if you look at it at the reality, there are a lot of atrocities that they have been done by the government forces on the ground, by the government officials. Sometimes they have taken wrong decisions, have caused life of the civilians and other things like that, and the military forces, they have done a lot of, what happened in Martu, Bamenda, Kumban, rest, how they will tell you that the military forces that do error, they have shot stray bullet, they have killed this one. When in Bamenda is stray bullet, they are coming for, and they are doing government doing the cover up. No, the government should not go focus more on the cover up. The reality is that this situation that is happening is a reality of cultures and heritage and dignity and history that the government have to accept it. If the government does not accept it, it will continue to live on cover up. These guys that are going about doing their businesses, they are supposed to be protected by the government forces, because the rule of the government and the government forces is to protect people and their properties. And if they are not able to protect people and the properties and are using close of that as an also means, it means that the government have failed. It means that the military themselves have failed. And that's why you see people are even talking about asking some questions that if the separatists can stop agencies, that they should not move, and the government cannot do anything to make it that agency to move on the road. It means that they have seen that they have taken the government force or the government weight or the government manpower, and discovered that it is weak. That's why they are using store closing and other things, to show for that's just the only means. That's the only weapon they have. But they still have that weapon of dialogue. They still have a weapon of understanding, of coming to the ground to accept the realities, accept the people's faith, accept that the culture, accept the history, accept it, and accept that this is time for us to sit down and make something a credible dialogue. Not the governor will say this one this way, this other one will say this one this way. It is not called for. Seeing people's shop will not stop this crisis. Because when they seal people's shops and these shops are sealed, and when the separatists come to come and burn them down, the government will not pay them. Many shops have been burned down during this crisis. Have government ever paid a civilian or somebody his money for his shops? That a shop was worth 10 million and burned down, and the government give the 10 million back. The government have not done that. People's cars have been destroyed. People's water have been destroyed, and government have not paid for any of those things. Neither than he put in a record and with a pledge that he will pay for it. So everybody have to do, of course, personal security. They have to secure themselves and their property. That's why when the impulse goes down, people are forced to stay at home. People are forced, to close their store in order not to suffer atrocity or burn down of their properties for no reason, which they themselves will suffer. So we are living in a dramatized, communities, and we believe that the government should help not to put more pains to the population.
You earlier mentioned how the separatist imposed lockdown have greatly affected the population of the northwest and southwest region. Now, as a civil society actor, what better strategies can the government adopt so as to better counter the lockdown imposed by separatist fighters?
That if you look at it globally, wars are taking on. You look in Colombia, in Afghanistan, in Southern Sudan, other areas of the world, the wars are going on. And you look at even those wars, even though war is going on, there are still people that are going in dialogues. There are still, war is going on by dialoguing. So the government should not shun away dialogue. The government should not run away from dialogue. The government should call all those guys in diaspora, call these guys on down, frankly decide that they want to dialogue. Even though if they can go to different countries, maybe country that they may agree on, and dialogue, because that is what this case will not end without dialoguing. No matter how the government run away from dialogue, no matter how they run away from negotiation, it will end up in that direction. Because, for example, if you look at the crisis at this point, most of us thought that maybe the crisis are diminishing, everything have gone down to zero, whereby everything is. But what station in Munya showing that things are still moving. It means that those guys are still strategizing, they are still planning themselves, and they are still coming out with more good plans in order to impose the philosophies, in order to impose what they stand for, and in order to impose that this territory is their territory and nobody have the remote right to take away from them. They still have it. And the government need to negotiate with those guys, they need to come down and talk with them. And until they agree and talk with them, it will never yield any fruits. For example, the government have used the digital strategy to take people laying down arms and come to digital. They have not really fruit because these guys don't have no professional counselors counseling them. And moreover, some of them are disgruntled, some of them are angry, and when they come out, they become more vulnerable, more wide as they were before. And most of these guys, they are there. So they have left GCR, they have gone back to the portal, and they become more dangerous than the government will ever think. And their plan will be more strategic and more fruitful than the government. But so the government need to calm down and sit down in a frank dialogue and decide to dialogue with these guys. Because if the government continue to remain on cover up, sealing of stores, doing like this, making peace marches on the way, it will not help the situation.
Reverend Dr. Mbe Christian, a civil society actor, speaking live to us all the way from Limbe in the southwest region of Cameroon. And that's what put an end to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Have a wonderful weekend in the company of more interesting programs on ETV.